To find oneself is finding, exploring, bringing forth higher consciousness. When one is searching, bringing forth the understanding that there is healing, there is a space to live in a better feeling, there is space for growth and expansion. So many get caught up in the everyday world, the everyday mundane, punch in, punch out, time in, time out. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. Moving along a pathway, wanting something greater than the experience, but not understanding how to achieve the better feeling, we want to say life. It is true that life holds deep contrast. The contrast must be in place. Ones have to know sorrow to understand joy, to experience the emotion of joy. Ones have to know hot to know cold. In one's travel of life, if one has the understanding that the contrast is needed for greater expansion, ones find their footing to greater expansion. Greater expansion, what do we mean by that? What we mean when we say greater expansion, higher consciousness, living life, seeing life through the eyes of Source, or a lens so clear to see the beyond, if you will. We speak about higher consciousness and the expansion of oneself to truly bring forth one's light. Now, to some, this feels and sounds like a bunch of BS, because the light is truly seen at times when one's have the twinkle in the eye, or one is so joyful, another will say, you are glowing. But in everyday life, it would be difficult to understand that light is held within. It would be easily dismissed and buried because it is not something that is tangible, and it isn't something that is truly taught. It's not part of the physical body, and yet it is the physical body itself. When one's look within, what is held within? The question, who am I? Ones would go within to bring forth the wisdom in the answer. Isn't it of grand truth that your intuition, your guidance, if you will, is held within? Intuition isn't something that is placed outside apart from you. It is part of you. But you cannot see intuition. You can feel intuition, but it is not something that is truly seen. So ones will say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I knew not to do it. My gut told me not to do it. I had a feeling not to do it, and I did it anyway. What a mess. What a mess of things. I should have listened to my intuition. So where does that guidance come from? Every soul has come to Mother Earth holding a guidance system, intuition. Name it what you will. It is in place to bring forth one's own wisdom. It is also put in place to protect one, if you will. We don't want to say survival, but ones truly can use their intuition to be guided to the highest, greatest pathway. When we speak about eternal light coming forth into physical form upon Mother Earth, holding eternal light, holding intuition, where does it come from? Who were you before your arrival upon Mother Earth? And who will you be after departing Mother Earth? When ones understand that deep within one's, we want to say physical body, is truly, we want to use the word creation. Creation is held within in the understanding of eternal light, inner essence, if you will. God within, name it what you will. So moving forth in life, if one's tuned in, tapped into their own personal guidance system, their own personal inner essence, their own personal divine wisdom, their own personal, we want to say divine intuition, ones would find the grandest guidance for oneself. And where do dreams, desires, and wishes stem from? And not all dreams, desires, and wishes are the same for each individual. Isn't it fascinating that a roller coaster ride to some is an absolute terrifying experience, and the same ride to another is an absolutely exhilarating experience. The same experience, the same roller coaster ride, one finding the feeling of absolute fear and terror, and the other finding a space of absolute excitement, joy, beyond joy, thrilling. How does one know which one to choose? And would it feel like a choice? One gets on the ride, they are terrified. The one sitting next to them, exhilarated. Does that become a choice? And if it isn't a choice, where does it come from that one chooses one thing or one experiences one emotion or not? Ponder that. So how you feel about any one thing in your experience of life would greatly differ from another, even if the two are experiencing the very same thing, such as a roller coaster ride. So when you arrive to Mother Earth in all your glory, perfection, divine light, and expansive love, all things then become, we want to say, a conditioning. Learning, being taught, being shown, beliefs being handed down generation after generation. And there are times where beliefs are just administered by a story, not even by an experience, by someone sharing a story. So perhaps a family member is talking about being on a roller coaster ride, feeling the exhilaration of the roller coaster ride, the wind in my hair, one would say, and up and down. It was exhilarating. I did not want the ride to end. And one surrounding them would perhaps take in what that one is sharing and have a notion, an understanding that roller coaster rides are truly fun and exhilarating. And someone else grows up in another household that says, one says, oh no, I can't go on a roller coaster ride. I am terrified. I am terrified. I just look at a roller coaster ride and I feel my stomach upset. I feel on edge. I want to scream, not even being on the ride. And the ones around listen to that story. So when would it come to play, if you will, where one decides on their own how they feel about the roller coaster ride? Because ones can say, oh, I'm sorry you felt terrified. I love it. I love it. So ones can differ in opinions of something, but it is of grand truth that ones can be conditioned into the belief of something. So your inner essence, intuition, your light held within, it is easily not forgotten, but truly, yes, it is easily forgotten, placed aside, put down, because it does become so buried with life experience, life conditioning. Higher consciousness allows one to understand that deep within one's body is creation and consciousness, is creation and light, is creation and wisdom. And in all that holds the deepest, grandest sense of compassion, the deepest, grandest sense of love, the deepest, grandest sense of kindness, and the depth of forgiveness. If ones were to understand that one truly holds and is eternal light, ones then can move into a space of bringing forth a mindfulness to become, to be their own authentic self. Now, would the authentic self be terrified on the roller coaster ride, or would the authentic self be thrilled on a roller coaster ride? Isn't that a question to ponder? All emotions are meant to be felt. And we have shared with you that what one would find anger in, another would not. What one would find happiness in, another would not. Not everyone wishes to eat ice cream, bringing happiness to one and not bringing happiness to another at all. So there's all different choices, all different, we want to say, desires, or what the difference in preferences, the likes, the dislikes. How does one not like ice cream? And how does one truly love ice cream? Where does it come from? So we're only sharing this for ones to understand that ones have come to Mother Earth with many, we do not want to say beliefs, that's not the right wording. Come to Mother Earth in the understanding of bringing forth, we don't want to get into past lives, however, bringing forth experiences that perhaps was experienced in a previous lifetime. And that does answer many questions as to why someone would be terrified or someone would be excited. What if there are different lives for different souls? So past lives, one coming back to return to, walked Mother Earth, departed Mother Earth, into eternal divine light, into eternal light. And then there is a choice, a decision to come back upon Mother Earth. And they already know of their experience upon Mother Earth. And so perhaps one that says, well, I was afraid of everything in my last lifetime. I would like to remove the fear. And I want to find joy. I want to find joy. So that one, with the experience of a fearful, terrifying roller coaster ride, perhaps would come back in another lifetime saying, I only want to feel exhilarated and joy. Isn't that fascinating? Something to ponder. And isn't it true that what would frighten one day, they try it and they become unfrightened, meaning they feel they're going to be terrified on the roller coaster but never had the experience. They go on the roller coaster and they feel joy. They feel the exhilaration that most would feel or some would feel. So in this example, oftentimes ones conclude something with an experience, but they also conclude something without the experience. Beliefs are like that, belief systems. Where does the belief stem from without the experience? So they hear a roller coaster ride is terrifying, but they've never been on a roller coaster ride to truly know if that is of truth. And again, what is true for one is not truth for another. So you can see how beliefs come into play without the experiencing of. Belief systems can truly sculpt a life. And it is true, if one has a belief that money is the root of all evil, and they do not wish to live in evil, they will find a way to live just within their means, if you will. Not wanting an abundance of financial wealth, whether they sort of know it or not, because they have the underlying belief that money is the root of all evil, that people with money, they're corrupt, they lie, they cheat, they steal to get their money. Whatever the wording was for the belief, ones will keep themselves in the experience of the belief system. And in those beliefs, not wanting to be judged. Because truly, one that has the belief that people with money must be corrupt, do not want to be judged as corrupt. But the one holding the belief is truly judging without knowing if the one is corrupt or not. Isn't that fascinating? And that's what we mean by ones will judge at first glance, but ones will judge even before the experience or the meeting of. So one has a deep-rooted belief that all people with money are corrupt, or they steal. Whatever it is, something not in a brightest light. And they see someone drive by in a very fancy car. Obviously, the car is worth a great deal of money. Without even seeing the person itself, themselves, just only seeing the car drive by, one has already concluded that the driver is corrupt. And yet, with that same belief, they would hold themselves back, not ever experiencing a very fancy car, if you will, because they do not wish to be labeled as corrupt. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't it fascinating? So we would guide that higher consciousness gives one the opportunity to explore one's belief systems, to explore what is true in their own truth. And it is of grand truth that in order to keep that belief in place, ones would meet someone, some people, more than one, that are corrupt and they are financially wealthy, only allowing space to anchor that belief even more. Higher consciousness removes the judgment, and it is difficult to see how beliefs would be judgment, but in this scenario, it is easy to see how this belief is judgment and condemning, and one living their life not to be judged or condemned, but in the same space condemning and judging another. Isn't that fascinating? So higher consciousness allows judgment to slip away. And in that non-judgment state, because ones are only living in the highest sense of compassion, love, kindness, forgiveness, when one sees the world through the lens of clarity, through the lens of source, they also see the world with non-judgment. They do not find the words to condemn, and with that, beliefs fall behind of judgment and condemnation. And then when beliefs fall behind, so the one holding the belief that everyone with money, most with money, are corrupt, they're evil, they steal from the poor, fill it in. And so they line up their life to not have that light shine upon them. They do not want to be perceived as corrupt or stealing from others, so they keep themselves removed from an abundance of financial wealth, whether they know it or not. Higher consciousness removes that. So if one removed the belief and the judgment and the condemning, would one have the opportunity to live in financial wealth? And the answer would be yes. If it became important. Now, not everyone wants to live in financial wealth. There are wealthy people that would truly enjoy that the outside world does not know they have money, because they never know if the friend is a friend, if they're being praised because they have money and not because of who they truly are. We use it as an example because so many feel such strong, we want to say beliefs, have strong beliefs around money, but they have strong beliefs around other people, other nationalities, other races, the opposite, the genders. So many beliefs hold such condemning and harsh judgment. Oh, can't trust them, can't trust any man, one may say. Oh, I wouldn't trust any woman. There's no way. They're all the same. They're all the same. I wouldn't trust any of them, just out to get you. Ooh, that would not make a very easy travel, would it now? Higher consciousness allows all that to fall behind, where you see the person as eternal light and not as the outer shell, not as the gender. You see the other as creation of creation, and you see the other creating their pathway, not judging their pathway, because you have stopped judging your own pathway. How much judgment is placed upon a pathway that one has chosen? Ponder that. Are you judging yourself for the pathway that you have chosen? Have you judged yourself for having the money or not having the money? Ponder that. Higher consciousness, when ones live in the highest state of compassion, love, kindness, forgiveness, grace, ease, joy, contentment, naturally would open doors for grand expansion of creation of one's life. Imagine if one could remove the beliefs that hold one back. I'm not good enough. We spoke about the A's, the B's, and C's in school. What if all that was abolished and one doesn't have the idea that they fail at everything they do because they kept receiving an F in grade 5? Higher consciousness is freedom. Higher consciousness is freedom. We will conclude this segment. There is great love for you.